Athletes, if your energy drops off halfway during your session, this is not always due to your training adaptations or lack of fitness, and is likely due to your muscles and brain not having enough fuel to keep on going. In this video, we're going to go through exactly how you can fuel during your training sessions, what snacks to prioritize, and how many carbohydrates you need per hour of training. This will make sure that your energy, power, and strength always stays high during your sessions. So stay tuned for all of the tips, but please make sure that you subscribe, like this video, as well as hit the notification bell if you want to stay tuned for all of my other videos. As an athlete, your sessions may be lasting 90 minutes or even longer. And at this time point, your muscles deplete their glycogen and your fast twitch fibers use up all your carbohydrates, particularly when you are training at 70% or higher of your VO2 max. So when your glycogen drops to a level that's quite low, your fatigue starts to kick in. Your calcium slows down, your muscle contractions slow as well, and this results to your power and speed all reducing, even if you are determined to keep on crushing it. So that's explaining the muscular side of the fatigue, but you also start experiencing brain fatigue when your glucose and glycogen drop too low. At the same time, your brain also needs a steady flow of glucose to make sure that you have enough energy for quick reactions and clear decisions, because low blood glucose levels make all of these drills a lot harder and also make your skills feel clumsy. The true fix to stopping mid-session energy crashes altogether is to make sure that you're matching your carbohydrate intake to the length and intensity of your training session. We also want to make sure that we do this in a gut-friendly way and prioritize foods that are easily digestible so that you don't feel heavy and full during your training while you're snacking. So let's get straight into carbohydrate guidelines. If you're training less than 60 minutes, you likely don't need any carbs, or you just need a minimal amount. If you are fueling correctly before your session and you have sufficient amount of carbs in your snack and meal, then that should see you through the whole session. However, if you don't, some minimal carbs might actually be helpful. Some athletes also use this carbohydrate swishing or rinsing method, where you just grab some carb drink and pop it in your mouth, swish it around and spit it out. Instead, it activates your receptors from your mouth to your brain and your central nervous system to help stimulate improved performance and energy levels without directly absorbing the carbohydrates into your bloodstream. So that could be a tip that you use if your sessions are lasting less than 60 minutes. If your training is lasting between 90 minutes to 2 hours, you want to prioritize having between 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour. So if your training lasts 2 hours, you'll have 30 grams of carbs in the first hour and 30 grams of carbs in the second hour. You can then work your way up to 60 grams of carbs once you get used to it and build tolerance to it. And you probably guessed it, as your training length increases, your carbohydrate requirements also increase. So if your training is lasting between 2 to 4 hours, you're likely needing between 40 up to 90 grams of carbs per hour. Again, build your tolerance and work up to 90 grams. It is a lot of carbohydrate, so I really do suggest starting at the lower end and working your way up, and also finding that sweet spot of what works for you. 90 grams of carbs might not be suitable for your type of training if you're a CrossFit athlete versus if you are a long distance endurance athlete. 90 grams of carbs might be a lot more achievable for someone doing endurance work. So really find what's best for you, what works with your sport and your energy levels. And then typical endurance length training sessions, anything lasting more than 4 hours, can require 90 grams of carbs or even more. Some endurance athletes that work with me can reach up to 110, even more grams of carbs per hour. And that is us training their gut to achieve that higher amount of carbs. You can also use a mixture of substances, so you can use fluids and food and see what fits best for you based on whether you're cycling or running. You're going to be using a combination for these sessions. So the best tip that I can give you is not consuming 90 grams of carbs in one instance. So you want to be splitting up your carbohydrate intake across the whole hour, whether it's 60 grams of carbs or 90 grams of carbs. So split your carbohydrate intake up from 15-minute increments all the way up to 45-minute increments, or anywhere in between, whatever's suitable for you. This avoids you having such a large amount of carbohydrates in one sitting, and obviously avoids any gut discomfort and digestion issues. So you can split this up by having small sips of sports drink or carbohydrate fluid mix across the whole hour, and then at the 15, 30 or 45-minute mark, you'll have a small snack in addition to this. So it could be one medjool date, a couple of lollies, or one energy gel at each time point to make sure that you're reaching that 90 grams of carbs or 60 grams of carbs or whatever the target is. You can split it up like that. So the next thing you want to focus on is having fast and simple carbohydrates. What I mean by this is you want to choose low fiber options that are easily digestible so that the food is not sitting in your stomach for too long and not absorbing quickly, which is what we need. We want the food to absorb fast so that glucose and energy enters your bloodstream so you can use it in your session. So some natural food options include medjool dates, dried fruits like dried mango, a ripe banana, or even honey sticks. Otherwise, some other convenient options could be through your sports drinks, so your carbohydrate fluids or electrolyte drinks like Powerade and Gatorade. Make sure they're full sugar options, not zero sugar, as well as energy gels and energy chews. You want to leave protein, fiber, and fats to after your training session or hours before your training session. This is because these types of foods take longer to break down and absorb into your bloodstream. So the longer that it takes, the longer it sits in your stomach, causes discomfort, bloating, cramps. You really don't want that in the middle of your training session, as well as an energy drop. So that's why we prioritize easily digestible carbs, so they're not sitting in your stomach and you're feeling really fueled from what you're eating and absorbing during your session. Make sure you're picking snacks that are suitable for your sport. What an endurance athlete can eat is different to what a team sport athlete can eat, or a weightlifter or a CrossFitter. Break times vary between all of these sports, and your sport modality changes too. If you're an endurance athlete who is on a bike, you're likely able to have a few chews or have an energy gel, also drink some fluid. If you're a team-based athlete and you have short break times, or you don't have any break times at all that allows you to have something to eat, then you might only be relying on a sports drink. If you're a weightlifter, you have lots of rest time, so you can optimize both as well, the fluid and food. And like I said before, when I was going through the carbohydrate guidelines, there is a range of carbs that are suggested per hour. The upper end might seem quite overwhelming for you at the moment. So if you're not used to having any carbs during training, start by having the lower end, or even lower than that. Start with 10 grams of carbs. Work with that across each hour for a week, and then slowly increase until you reach a certain amount that you see a really good and positive effect on your performance, because usually within a month, athletes can tolerate between 70 to 80 grams of carbs per hour if you slowly increase your carbs over that time frame and allow your gut to get used to it, because your gut is also a muscle. It works the exact same way as you doing squats for the very first time. If you rock up to the gym and you do squats for the first time, you don't expect to be brilliant at squats or not pull up sore the next day. You expect to be sore. And as you keep on showing up to the gym, as you keep on doing more and more squats, you get more and more used to it. It's the exact same thing that happens with your stomach. As you build tolerance, as your muscle, your stomach gets used to it, you'll be able to digest it easily and not see it as a problem anymore, not feel as overwhelmed by the idea of having carbs or food during training. So the last tip that I'm going to leave with you is what some research has found with co-ingestion of carbohydrates and other substrates that will help the enhancement or uptake of glucose into your bloodstream. The first one is electrolytes, particularly sodium. So adding 300 to 500 milligrams of sodium into about 500 mils of fluid with your carbohydrate intake can help that sodium glucose co-transport, which increases the uptake and the speed of the uptake of glucose and sugar into your bloodstream. To get 300 to 500 milligrams of sodium can be done through a supplement like Liquid IV, Dr. Hydrate. You can even use Sodi if you are a heavy sweater and require even a little bit more sodium because of your sweat loss. The second one is caffeine. Having 3 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilo of body weight with your carbohydrates can boost your carb oxidation, but it is really important to trial these protocols out in training first. Caffeine can have side effects of jitteriness if you're not used to it, so it's really important to try it out in training before you do it in competition. So we've gone through how to perfect intra-fuelling carbohydrates or intra-fuelling nutrition. It doesn't mean that mistakes can't be made, and I just wanted to highlight a few of the common errors that I notice across athletes making when it comes to fueling during training, and pretty much what not to do. So try and avoid these things. The first one is just ignoring everything I've said and only relying on water to get you through an intense or long session, hoping that your motivation and discipline gets you to the finish line. It's not that simple, and I wish it was, and I wish that your motivation will ride you out to the end and allow you to feel and perform your best, but the water is not going to cut it for any intense session that's lasting more than 90 minutes. Make sure you watch the video again if you still think that fueling with water is going to be fine. The second one is chugging 60 grams of carbs or eating 60 grams of carbs per hour all in one go. So not splitting it up in 15, 30 or 45 minute increments, having all of the carbs at once. Big no-go. Particularly if you're very new to intra-training fueling. You want to have a steady flow of glucose and not overwhelm your gut with too much food at once. The third one is snacking on nut bars or protein bars because they're healthy. Totally, they're definitely healthy, but wrong time to have these snacks. Nut bars and protein bars are for after training or hours before training. These types of foods, so fats and protein, will sit in your stomach for longer and not essentially get absorbed and utilized for the energy that you're looking for in your sessions. The fourth mistake is trying to have 90 grams of carbs per hour for the first time on race day. Never try fueling strategies for the first time on a competition. Like I said before, your stomach is a muscle. So if your muscle is not used to digesting those types of foods or the amounts of food that you're consuming during your training session, then you are going to feel bloated, you are going to feel uncomfortable, and you are going to get stomach cramps. So first, trial out a smaller amount of carbs in training, work your way up to 90 grams of carbs per hour in training, and then follow through with that on your competition day. And the last mistake is always blaming conditioning or lack of fitness and lack of training adaptations on the reason why you're dropping out or feeling fatigued in that last leg of your race. It's usually not the case. If you're fueling correctly and you've really adjusted the strategies that I've gone through in this video to suit you and your energy levels and how much energy you're burning, then you're gonna be sweet all the way through to the finish line. So just to recap, we've gone through your carbohydrate guidelines. So the first thing is to try and match your carbohydrate amounts per hour to the length of your training session. The second is to choose easily digestible carbohydrates and fuel in small increments across each hour. So 15, 30 to 45-minute increments, fuel with all of those snacks. And the third tip is to practice the strategy now during training before practicing it on race day. You want to make sure your body is used to the amount of carbs that you're consuming per hour and is also used to the types of foods that you're choosing as well to keep you race ready. I hope you liked this video. Please stay tuned for more. I drop a video every single week, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to get notified for my next video, as well as drop any comments. If you have questions, I'll be sure to answer them and help you out along the way. Until next time.